Both of us single dads from the Midwest, we can talk about it. Both of us single dads from the Midwest, we can talk about it. Both of us single dads from the Midwest, we can talk about it. Or we can get gully, I'll size up your body and put some white chalk around it.
Welcome to the Single Dads of the Midwest, episode 45. I'm joined by the man who keeps this podcast alive, Don/Sheldon, and we're here to talk about terrible roommates and other things. So, let's just dive in. Tell us about your pandemic roommate situation.
So thanks for having me, Alex. First off, let me put a disclaimer that this was not a terrible roommate situation. This was a blurred roommate situation because this guy was like so respectful, so nice, so intelligent that I actually quite like him. I liked hanging out with him. But all the stories I'm about to tell you are true. It's just that when you live with someone for like the entire pandemic, you get to see all of their idiosyncrasies and peculiarities.
Sure. Well, could we get some context on how this all happened? Like, how did you meet this person? Like, how did this all come into fruition?
Oh my God. Okay. So I originally met him like about 2 years before the pandemic. And I had only talked to him online because he had just graduated college. He was moving to the area, to Silicon Valley. And I talked to him over like a video conference thing. He says, and I'm like, all right, this guy seems all right. And the other roommate at the time said, yeah, this guy seems all right. So he hopped on a plane, the new roommate, came to our apartment, and like I welcomed him in. He had 2 suitcases, and that was it. So the first day, I said, all right, welcome into the apartment. Do you put your stuff down? Do you want to go grab lunch together? Because I was really excited to like get to know my new roommate. I want to start this off on a positive note.
Sure.
So we start walking over to the restaurant. And we walk and we talk a little bit. And my new roommate starts walking faster and faster. And he's leaving me behind on our trip. And by the time he gets to the restaurant, I'm like, far behind, just giving up on trying to keep up with him.
Sure.
And so I reach the restaurant. I'm panting. I'm just like, dude, why do you walk so fast? And he says, well, I want to get to where I'm going faster. So this was the first clue that this was not going to be an ordinary roommate. And as our first day together, I didn't want to make things weird. I didn't want to be impolite. So I didn't say anything. Questions so far?
Seems like maybe they're just not much of a people person.
He was not a people person at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people like that. I guess this is definitely peculiar, but it doesn't sound too bad so far.
So yeah, I mean, like we had a good conversation together. He's a nice guy. We had a lot of similar interests. Like we both played video games, and we both worked in the same company. So there was enough to talk about. Later that day, I said, hey, do you want to go to IKEA? I can, help you get some new furniture for your room. So we drive over to IKEA, and he gets a desk, he gets a chair, but he doesn't get a bed. And I say, hey, do you want to get a bed frame? And he says, nah. And I say, like, are you sure? And he says, yeah, I'm sure. So we end up going home. And he doesn't have a bed frame. He just has a futon that he rolls up during the day, and he has like more space in his room. So once again, not bad, not necessarily weird, but different.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do know a few people that don't necessarily have like the bed frame, and they just kind of have the mattress on the floor. So that's definitely not the first time I've heard of something like that.
Yeah, and like a lot of people in like East Asia like do a similar thing. Like they have a thing they roll out and there's no bed frame, or so I'm told.
Yeah, so that part doesn't seem as peculiar.
The thing is, things just started building up.
Okay, so it seems like very niche interest. Going back to the original point of walking fast, it seems like maybe from what you describe, they're kind of in their own world or enjoy fantasy worlds and maybe don't care too much for in-person interaction.
Okay, this is like the thing I respect the most about my old roommate. He didn't care what other people thought of him.
Hmm.
And that is like a superpower.
Truly.
He was living in some senses he was living his life the way he wanted to live it, not the way that other people thought he should live it.
That's the dream in some ways. I think there's some calibration you kind of need in social interactions, but I think that's a good attitude generally.
Yeah.
So we get the context for this, and then I'm assuming you're living together. Is this in the Bay Area or in Austin?
This is in the Bay Area. So we live together for, 1 or 2 years, and we don't interact that much. We're just kind of doing our own thing, which is great. He's quiet, I'm quiet. We're happy to be roommates with each other for multiple years.
Okay. And you said you also had other roommates, right?
Yes, we went through a succession of third roommates one year, and it was kind of a strange situation.
What happened there?
Oh, well, one guy lived with us for like 3 months and then unexpectedly moved
Okay.
because he wanted to live with his friend in another apartment, which is like strange, but okay, as long as you pay your month's rent for that last 2 months, that's fine.
Yeah, fair enough. So we head into the pandemic, and then what happens?
So when the pandemic started, no one knew what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
And we were ordered to work from home. Okay, no problem. We have laptops. We can do this. And so, first day of the pandemic, my roommate walks into the kitchen. I'm sitting in the dining area alone. He opens the fridge. He closes it. He opens the pantry. He closes it. He opens the fridge again and closes it. And he turns to me and says, "Hey, how do you make food?" And I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean? Can you be more specific?" And he says, I want to make some food. And
Wow.
and I asked him a few more questions, and it turns out this man has never cooked a meal in his entire life.
What? Yo.
This
Wait,
guy
how
is
old
like
is this person? Or how
like 23, 24 at least. He had always lived either at home or at like college. There was a dining hall, and at work he always went to the cafe for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So this is the first time he couldn't go to a restaurant. He couldn't go to the office cafe or anything else.
That is incredible. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you had to teach him cooking. Wow.
So on the first day, I taught him how to make scrambled eggs because that's like all we had in the fridge at the moment, and I thought that could be an easy intro to cooking.
Yeah.
And so for the next 3 weeks, all he made was scrambled eggs every day.
Well, at least he's doing it. So
Yeah, and the thing is, he got really good at making scrambled eggs. But a few times in, I found him in the kitchen eating his scrambled eggs by himself. And I walk by. He says, "Hey, how much salt am I supposed to put in scrambled eggs?" And I say to him, "Well, just a little pinch, not more than like a quarter teaspoon or something. Like it should be a very small amount." And he says, "Oh, okay." And he just keeps eating his scrambled eggs. These are really salty. And so I tell him, "Dude, how much salt did you put in your eggs?" And he says, "Oh, like 2 or 3 tablespoons."
wow.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, how are you eating this?" I would have just I don't think I could have handled that. But this guy can handle anything.
Wow. Did he learn more than just scrambled eggs over the months of the pandemic?
Yes, he was a big anime fan. So whenever he saw food in an anime, he'd want to make that too. So like mapo tofu or chicken katsu. And he got really, really good at making chicken katsu, and I loved that. Like sometimes we would cook together in the kitchen. And one day, you're not going to believe this. He was standing there cutting up a lemon, for dinner. And he says, "Hey, can you eat lemons?" And I reply to him, "Well, technically, yes." And he says, "Oh, okay." And so he takes one of the lemon pieces and just bites into it. And I'm like, "Dude, what the heck's going on?" And he's like, "What? What's wrong?" And I tell him, "Wait, isn't that like super spicy? How's your mouth handling that?" And I asked him, "Well, why did you do that?" And he just replies, I wanted to get some vitamin C."
Wow. What? That's insane.
I admire like how the lengths to which this guy would go to get nutrients, because there was one point in the pandemic where the three roommates were sitting around the kitchen table having dinner, and with no context, our roommate says, "Hey, do you think I have rickets?" And so my other roommate was like, "Wait, what do you mean? Like a vitamin D deficiency?" And he says, "Yeah." And the other two of us are like, "Wait, why would we how would we know? Like, what makes you think you have rickets?" And he says, "Well, my joints hurt and I haven't been outside in 2 months." And so we were both incredulous, because like at this point in the pandemic, you're allowed to go outside.
Yeah,
So
you
me
go on
and
a
him,
walk. Yeah.
yeah, like we'll go on walks, we'll go exercise outside. But apparently, this guy, not even to take out the trash or to get groceries, he has not seen the sun for 2 months.
Yo, I just feel like this person is like lacking life skills. That seems to be the issue here.
I honestly don't know, because he's so intelligent. Like, he wrote a program to arbitrage cryptocurrency. He got promoted at work faster than me. He has so much brain power.
Well, social skills can be a little kind of a different form of there's kind of different forms of intelligence, so it's not it's not one dimensional, if that makes sense.
That's true. And I did offer him to like hang out with my friends and stuff, and I, tried learning more about him and all that, and I did. And one time, I felt a little bit sad for him, because he said he only had two friends. And looking back on that, he had two roommates as well. So that was really concerning.
Were they the same? What did he consider you all their friends, or were they other people?
Other people.
Okay, I mean that's probably good.
I mean, it's good that he had friends. I think it's funny that he didn't consider me and my other roommate a friend after living together for like 4 years. But in the meantime, I was like, in the moment, I didn't realize this. But I just offered him, "Hey, like, do you want to hang out with some of my friends? Maybe you could like, play some board games together, watch a movie together, just hang out." He just kind of like shakes his head, is like, "Nah." Though he did eventually come and hang out with us.
Okay, that's good. How did that experience go?
I think everyone had a good time.
Okay, nice.
So I don't think this guy was like a failure or anything. I think he did have some social skills he needed to learn, but I don't think he was hopeless or anything. He was just a
Yeah.
very unique individual.
Yeah, sounds very peculiar, but otherwise not harmful in any way.
Yeah, like he always cleaned up after himself. Like, he was respectful. Um, there was just one time where I was like very confused. One day during the pandemic, he says, "Hey, I'm going to learn Japanese." And I tell him, "Great. Um, Good night." And so I go to bed, not thinking anything of it. But at 3 a.m., I start hearing shouting from his room. And so I go over to his door and like knock on it. I'm like, "Excuse me. Could you keep it down, please?" And he just kind of like looks up from his headphones. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. And so this happens again the next night and the next night. And eventually I ask him, hey, dude, what's going on at 3 a.m. every night? And it turns out that in order to learn Japanese, he wanted to talk with people in Japan. Sounds great. Except that Japan is like 8 hours behind California. So the only time you can talk with them is in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. I mean, there is overlapping times. It's not, yeah, that aren't 3 a.m. where
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. The thing is, he was playing on like a Discord server with some people in Japan, and they're playing this bank heist game or something. And there's two strategies in this game: either creep around the level and try and not attract any attention, or you just pull the alarm and just fire at anything that comes at you. And so, guess which strategy the people on Andrew and my roommate's Discord server were doing?
Based on the noise, they definitely went with strategy too.
Yes. So I heard a lot of shouting in Japanese for a few weeks that night. It was quite strange, but I was happy that he was like learning a new language. Like I
Yeah, this person sounds very peculiar, but also interesting because it's like because it's so far out of the norm, they stand out. Like characters like that stand out more, if that makes sense.
yeah, I had like 8 other roommates over the course of 5 years or so, and most of them were just quiet, normal people.
Yeah.
Have you had any interesting roommates, Alex?
Yeah. So my first roommate in undergrad like smoked tobacco from a pipe. He was very like he did some manual labor here and there. Like not like prison labor, just like work. But I honestly he wasn't really that interesting, actually. I mean, it was interesting that he smoked from a pipe, but he was pretty chill. And my next roommate was pretty good. Actually, one of my best friends. So literally going to their wedding in November. So that was undergrad. And then when I moved to the Bay, I lived with my family for a little bit. And then I had the same roommate for my entire time in Silicon Valley who was like not a super close friend, but like a friend associate from high school. And they were very keep to themselves, but clean and respectful. Nothing really of note. It was a very tame relationship. Like we never got super close, but it was never like hostile or anything. It was a pretty good situation.
Hmm.
First year roommate of grad school was really cool. He was a Chinese national, and we would play basketball together. And he was also very clean. And then, but not anything crazy. And then my last year was the worst. I had two roommates. Oh, okay, so I had two roommates, and I think the worst part was they just never cleaned. So the bathroom was always dirty.
Mm,
I was the one cleaning, and
mm,
they weren't gonna clean. Like even if I didn't clean, they didn't clean. So it was like I either have to live with filth or just clean myself. And one was German and he was pretty friendly, but he was also the messiest. And the other one just did not talk to me. Like it was very host like he never did anything antagonistic, but like if I saw him walking on the street like let's say I was leaving the apartment while he was coming in, like walking on that street or vice versa, and I would say hey, he wouldn't say anything in return. And it was really weird because I would say in the year, other than like cleanup day, I maybe spoke 5 words were exchanged between the two of us.
that is that
Very,
is wild.
yeah. Speaking of strange sounds coming in the middle of the night. So I mean this is in California. At first I thought it was an earthquake. It took me actually a few days to realize that the roommate that didn't speak to me was working out, I guess, and probably doing like jump squats or something that involved jumping. And like the neighbors were getting upset, but I didn't even know what was going on in that room because I don't know. All I hear is like bouncing, but like, and it's not like any sort of interpersonal thing because it was just him in the room. So it was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. It took me, and then I figured out later he was working out, which made more sense. Um, but yeah, that was not great. It wasn't like he didn't get in my way at all, and I had my own room, but that was not a great situation. It was like kind of a random pairing through the housing at USC.
Mm.
It wasn't like chosen. So we'll see. I'm actually like I'm right now with my parents, but looking to move into a new place, hopefully soon once I get a job. And then that becomes a whole new situation of finding a roommate. Because I
Mhm.
feel like I haven't been super close to my roommates. Like the one I mentioned in the Bay Area, super chill, but we were never really close. And I want to find someone where it's like, oh, we can actually cook together and stuff like that.
Yeah. One thing I liked about that roommate situation was that during the pandemic, the three of us would either one of us or multiple of us would cook dinner, and we'd all have dinner together. Sometimes we'd you know, discuss video games or play video games or whatnot, or exercise or whatever. But it was a sense of a tiny community in that little apartment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sense of that community sense is pretty important.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about regarding roommates?
Uh, what does that conclude that your story with your roommate?
Oh man, there's one more tale I could tell if you want.
Yeah, I don't have much else in terms of roommates on my end. I mean, luckily it's been rather uneventful. I laid my entire roommate history and it took like 5 minutes. So what's this last tale?
All right. Well, it doesn't exactly involve my roommate, but it's the story of how I moved out of that apartment.
Okay.
After the pandemic was um, ending in quotes.
Sure.
Coronavirus is still with us. I got COVID on Friday, so
Oh, wow.
here I am. Fourth time.
Wait, you've had the Rona 4 times?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, and I got vaccinated, I got boosted, all that stuff. Like, and I mean, I'm glad that I did because the symptoms are quite mild. But like the fact that I could just get this 4 times is like the flu.
This is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. So what I'm about to say is taken lightly. I feel like it's just going to become like the normal flu where there's different variants and therefore people get sick. But again, I don't have that. That's just a loose understanding hypothesis. I am not a medical professional. I just want to put that disclaimer in there.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Anyways, how did I move out of that apartment? I was moving out of California, and I was trying to find a moving company to get all my stuff to, pack it up, ship it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with my friend over dinner one day, and I said, "Hey, man, moving is such a pain. I should just make a meetup event and have people move for me. That would be pretty silly, wouldn't it?" He's like, "Oh yeah, that would be so funny." But what if we did? What would the theme be? And I'm like, "Oh my god, we gotta think about this." Like, so we start concocting a meetup event because we're both organizers of Silicon Valley Offbeat Fun, and we do all kinds of crazy events, like real life Mario Kart, like this thing called the Offbeat Olympics, which is like the Olympics but kind of like cheesy. And we decided that we were going to make Escape the Zombies from Tetris Island.
Oh, wow.
Because there needs to be some sort of evacuation to carry all the boxes out to the shipping container in the parking lot. Sure. And we're Tetrising all my furniture into the shipping container. So yes. Escape the zombies from Tetris Island.
That works.
And it was kind of ridiculous because I had no idea how people would respond to this event, because it was really a very thinly veiled attempt at getting my friends to help me move.
Yeah.
And so I spent like at least 3 hours creating an escape room inside my apartment where I like hid messages in the furniture and like had these Tetris puzzle pieces you had to like fit together to reveal the location of the next clue. It was a legit event.
Okay.
And so the day arrives and I'm like, okay, I don't know if anyone's actually going to show up for this event. Like, what if it's just me and like my co-organizer? But it turns out 10 people came, most of which were people that met me before, but a few were just random strangers who thought, this sounds really fun.
Nice.
And so I led them through the first phase, which was just solving puzzles inside the apartment. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then once they had solved the puzzle, they read the note. It said something like, "Oh no, there are zombies in the area. We need to evacuate the base. Everyone, grab a box and let's go to the parking lot."
Nice.
So we all carried the boxes into the parking lot with a shipping container. We opened the container and there's a note inside. And it's like, "Oh, more zombies." And so we grabbed some Nerf guns, and one person pretends to be a zombie who is chasing down the people carrying boxes as they shuttle boxes from the apartment to the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
And the people with the Nerf guns are blasting away at the zombies to make sure they can keep the cargo safe.
Nice. That's a
It
good way
was
to help move.
it was such an amazing event. And I told everyone, hey, you really don't have to carry anything if you don't want. Like, this is just for fun.
Yeah.
And yes, I am moving and stuff, so they all knew. But like, because half of them were my friends anyway. And the only person who didn't pick up a box,
You?
no, it was my ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
And you might be asking, why did my ex-girlfriend come to this event? And I'm asking myself the same question. We had been broken up for like over a year at that point.
Oh.
Anyways, no, she was fine. Like she participated. It was good. Anyways, so at the end, after every article had been Tetrised into the shipping container, the finale was like they found the inventor of Tetris and like cured him from the zombie virus, and the day was saved. And I bought pizza and drinks for everyone.
That sounds like a good time.
It was the most fun I've ever had moving.
It sounds like it.
You know what the saddest part was? Actually, two things. One, there was another guy in the apartment complex who heard the commotion. He came over and just joined in on the fun.
That's awesome.
And the sad part is that, man, I met him just as I was moving out, so we couldn't hang out again.
Yeah, that sucks.
And the other sad part was that my roommates didn't help with this event.
Oh, wow. They didn't want any part of it?
No, they just didn't want to participate, or they were busy or something. Like I think they helped me move a little bit, but they were just either not available or had excuses that evening.
I mean, if they had prior plans, I get it. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I really enjoyed living with them. I kind of miss them sometimes. Like when I go back to the Bay Area, I want to hang out with the guy who still lives there, because my other roommate ended up leaving California as well about a month after I left.
Is this the peculiar one or which one?
Yes.
Okay.
So now I don't know if he lives with his parents, but I think it's out of choice, because if he does, it's out of choice, because he can definitely afford his own apartment or to find new roommates in wherever he lives now. I think he was wanting to spend more time with his parents, which I think is quite wholesome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
anyways, that's the end of my roommate saga.
And then I believe right now you're currently living alone, right?
Oh, so actually about a month ago, I moved in with my girlfriend. So we just got a new apartment together, and I am currently sitting here right now.
Oh, very cool. But before then you had the solo adventure with no roommates.
Yes.
Nice. And now the ultimate roommate situation.
Yes. No, okay, so we actually did something really interesting. Months before we moved in together, we made a big document with like all these different questions, like how should we decorate the apartment? Where should it be located? How do we handle finances? Who's going to clean up for different things? And this resolved so many questions ahead of time and set expectations so that we're both happy with the arrangement.
It sounds smart. Way to think ahead.
Did you have any more questions for me or things you wanted to mention?
I think that covers what you wanted to say, right? With this interesting roommate situation. I wish, well, no, I mean, it's good not, in some ways it's good I don't have any interesting roommate stories because I guess the only thing, doesn't really involve my roommate specifically, but one time a car drove through our backyard. And that was like an interesting situation when I was in Silicon Valley. They were like a drunk driver and they didn't hit anything. They hit like the fence, the wooden fence. But my roommate was home and like apparently was like really freaked out, understandably. I was at a play, and then I came home and I just saw all this chaos. I guess that's the only interesting thing. I'm trying to think of other things that happened involved with that Silicon Valley apartment. Um, yeah, that's it. But yeah, what do you think makes for a good roommate?
Oh, good question. I think this depends on the person, but personally, I think someone who is, willing to clean up after themselves. We can hang out together sometimes, but not too much. Like we can be friends and stuff, but not overbearing.
Yeah.
Just have the same expectations around like, quiet hours and what's like, how often do you want to have guests and all that, all those sort of normal roommate questions, just being on the same page.
Yeah. I think it's same for me. I mean, cleaning up for yourself is good. I think as someone who had like a decent roommate, but was we weren't necessarily kind of, as I mentioned, super close or super social, like I would like to have more of that in the future. But other way, I really like the way that my roommate in Silicon Valley and I operated, like communication about bills and just like fairly clean. And I had more guests over than they did, so it was more like, but I would always ask. So yeah, it was pretty good stuff. Um, yeah, be a good person, basically.
Be a good person. I like it.
It doesn't sound like much, but sometimes that even that minimum bar is hard to meet.
You know it.
Maybe not shouting in Japanese at 3 a.m. Although I guess I didn't have to deal with that specifically. But yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing the story. It's good to have like a mix up of things to talk about.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I hope that both of us have really good roommates in the future.
Yes, and good luck with your current situation.
Thank you.